John, it's good to see you again, man.
Yes, sir. Likewise. Likewise.
So we had the most, I would say, unlikely of rendezvous somewhere out in West Texas a couple weeks ago. I had intentions of, and I am leasing the property, by the way, for turkeys. Still
There
going to
you
do
go.
it, yeah. But the guys that were thinking about getting on this beautiful place out there around Mertzen, the guys that had the dogs that were going to jump on with me, I told them, you guys put this on your calendar. This is like 3 months ago, John. And, here comes the weekend that we're supposed to go. And one guy's like, oh, I'm skiing, man. I'm like, another guy's like, oh, I'm javelina hunting in northwestern Oklahoma. And the other guy's like, I'm on my way back from skiing. And then I was just like, well, you guys are morons. So I need to go look at this property. I've got it blocked off on my calendar. The wife knows I'm going out of town. So I put out a message on Facebook. Does anybody have any good bird dogs and feel like going on an adventure? I don't know what this property is going to be like, if it even has a lot of quail on it. And someone told you about it. And next thing you know, we're meeting in West Texas, having never met each other. But you had some great dogs. And I want to talk about the dogs and more importantly, what you do. You are, I think you're 22 years old.
22 years old. Yes, sir. We're from down here in Fredericksburg, Texas, and we run Plum Creek Kennels. Bill Dillon is actually the original creator of the kennel. He started this kennel in South Dakota in the 70s. And he was running American Brittany's and was trialing American Brittany's. And then he discovered this little French Brittany, which is a cousin to the American Brittany, but it's a different dog, a little smaller in stature and size. It runs a little bit closer, and it's more for a foot hunter instead of the big running American Brittany's like they like to run in the horseback trials. The French Brittany's for a much closer hunting dog. It's a very sweet dog. And so the goal of our breeding program is to produce a dog that's amazing in the field, but then it can also come home and just sit on the couch with you. And that's kind of the whole snitch of our breeding program. We're just trying to give people a good family dog, but then also a dog that you can take them out to the woods and let them run on the prairies, or you can take them out to the woods in Wisconsin. That we hunt quail in Texas with them. It's just a little versatile dog that we're just tickled by, and we love it more than anything.
So did you grow up around hunting dogs?
We did, but I mean, back at that time, I mean, there weren't really like the training we do now is more my style of training without being too exposing some of those guys. I mean, they were a little more old school about it. I mean, dog goes in, busts the bird. I mean, they're going to crack the whip on them. And we don't really do that anymore. It's just kind of letting the dog figure it out. I mean, because at the end of the day, the dog's not going to do wrong because it's trying to make the owner upset. It's really just doing the best thing it thinks it can do that day. And I think over time we've kind of learned that more. And so it's necessarily not beating the dogs anymore. It's just teaching. It's a teaching process now instead of the rough ways they did in the past. And so growing up, I mean, it kind of evolved from that, which I'm happy to see. But I mean, for the most part, it wasn't dogs that I was fascinated in. I always wanted to be a rancher or a farmer and be outside, just have some kind of ties with the outside. I worked in an internship in an office for about 2 months in San Antonio, Texas, and it was miserable every day. Every day, I knew I had short hair at home, and I was always miserable in there. And I got out and I ran into the Heitzlers, and they were looking for a hand around the kennel, and then the rest is history now. But I mean, it's always been a part of the life, being outside and just enjoying nature and taking it for what it is, and just looking at the natural beauty of things.
Mm-hmm. So you actually just graduated from college during the pandemic, right?
Right, Tarleton State University.
Now, did you really graduate? Because you told me when we were hunting together that they just kind of were like, it's COVID. Do you even have to take a test anymore?
Yeah, we took finals and everything, and they have us in front. But man, it was a flip of things, because you go from living on campus to seeing all your friends and going to class, and that's kind of the best way to learn, I think, is through the dialogue that you have in that class, instead of just the teacher's giving you a PowerPoint and saying, okay, this is what you got to learn this week, test on Thursday or test on Friday or do Sunday. So that was okay, but I mean, it didn't feel like school much at all. But it definitely made it easy, because I got to be out at the kennel more than more than I got to be in a classroom, which I love.
Yeah, and you actually played baseball, but you
Did.
told me you didn't really even like baseball. You just did it because you were good at it, and it was a means to an end to get an education.
Right, yeah, I mean, we had to figure out a way for me to get into school, and I went to junior college. I played junior college baseball in Mount Pleasant, Texas, and, it was fun. That was the most fun, and then but then once you move on to the bigger levels, it just becomes a little more of like a job where you're going to these team meetings and pep rallies and stuff like that. But in junior college, we hardly had any teams. I think there was a soccer team, a softball team, and the baseball team, and a rodeo team. Those were our four big teams. And
Oh
other
wow.
than that, but at Taunton, you go, there's a giant football stadium, there's a giant soccer team, there's tennis courts, and it's a much different culture change. But if I had to do it again, I definitely go back to junior college, but not the 4 year. The four
Yeah.
year was not a ton of fun.
Right. Right. Well, you told me you don't have a lot of friends, and you don't really like team sports, and so maybe that's why you're now just hanging out with the dogs, running a kennel.
Right.
I mean, we obviously hit it off and enjoyed all the conversations that we had and the time we spent hunting with these dogs. But yeah, you mentioned you don't have a lot of friends, don't need a lot of friends.
Right. I mean, we got the bird dogs. I got Art and Mary out here. There's another gentleman that works out at the kennel. I mean, that's all you really need at the end of the day. I mean, because I know my dogs won't bullshit me, and a lot of people they'll bullshit you, but I know at least my dogs are honest, and they're
Yeah.
all and they're always happy to see me. I'm always happy to see them. We'll call it even. We'll
Yeah.
call it even at that. But I know there's a lot of bullshit in the world, and people will bullshit you, but I know my dogs won't. So,
So, how did you start the training process? You mentioned you spent some time up in Montana. Like how
South Dakota is
South
where Bill
Dakota, right?
Dillon's from.
Okay. South
Yeah, so
Dakota.
Bill came down to Texas, but we were running dogs before Bill came down. But I mean, just like everything, you just got to work dogs to be a dog trainer. Just dogs, 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 and we were just trying to work as many possible. I've been up to see Ronnie and Susanna Love and Ronnie. They're on a different level of training. They understand things about dogs, but they just had family running the business and doing their business side of things for so long that it's just second nature for Ronnie and Susanna to work these dogs, and they have a method that's really foolproof, I think. And I was privileged enough to go up there and spend some time with them. They mentored me. Bill Dillon, the old owner of the kennel, mentored me, and I think that's the thing about either any kind of hunting, but especially bird dogs bird dogs especially, is you need a good mentor, because I mean this isn't the easiest lifestyles to live. There's times where the dogs just aren't doing what you need to do. And like I said before, it's not the dog's fault by any means. The dog's doing its best, but I mean, sometimes you're just not on the same page, and it's good to have people like that to bounce ideas off of. So I'm very appreciative to have Ronnie and Bill and Susanna and Art and all these people to talk to when things are getting a little bumpy, and I'm like, hey, I got this dog doing this, and they're like, okay, we'll try this, and if it doesn't work, call me back in a week. And that's kind of it. They've helped me out a lot, but I mean, it just started. We were just running dogs. We were just running dogs and observing things, and we learn stuff every day, just like a dog should. I think people are the same way. I think we should all learn at least one thing every day, and that's what we try to teach the dogs. If they're not perfect, it's okay. We'll at least learn something a day and get better, as long as we're not going backwards.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, and what are the three commands? You said once the dogs have these down, that's the rest of it's pretty much it's gravy.
Right. Yeah. So we use WHC: whoa, heel, and come. So as long as you can get those three covers, and you got your dog walking next to you, he's coming with you in the field. You got him, get him some breaks. You say he stops when you say whoa, and then he comes to you when you ask him to come to you. I mean, and then that's how you make a bird dog. That's how
Uh-huh.
you make a bird dog. Because once you got those rolling, then you're going to be cooking. You're going to be cooking. Then you can take him out in the field, and you know he's not going to get hurt because he has a good recall. Worst case scenario, he's running towards the cattle guard, and you call him back. He doesn't break his leg. He's running after a deer. You call him back. He doesn't run a million miles away from you. I mean, yeah, it's just like a car. A car needs brakes, so that's your whoa. It's got to
Uh-huh.
come with you. You got to have your steering wheel, and that's you. You're moving them in the field, and then you just got to come back to you when you called. So as long as you can get your WHC covered, you'll be all right. Whoa, here and come.
Uh-huh.
Oh, whoa, here and come, and they'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Um Now sometimes things don't always go right. We had a little imported dog. I think you guys got it from Holland, so you're always
Yes.
looking to diversify your breeding program. But you picked up this French Brittany from Holland. His name is Scotch, and he was the first dog that we ran, and he got cut up pretty bad. We don't even know what cut him.
Right, some barbed wire or limb. I mean, something got him good, but that's the life that a little bird dog lives. I mean, you saw that little dog. He'd be ready to run. He wasn't going to stop until we noticed it. I mean, he would
Yeah,
have ran all day, and that's how you know you got a good one. And I think any dog that will run that hard for you has a chance. Whether it's the most obedience dog, whether it's the fastest dog, but as long as your dog gives you the best, it has a chance. And that's what we really try to get the dogs to do. I mean, just but they do it naturally. They do it naturally. They want to give you their all, and as long as it does that, they have a chance to be great.
uh-huh. So I've done a lot of hog dogging over the years, and those guys are all on the spot in the field, want to be veterinarians, right? And they do it out of necessity. Your dog gets cut by a hog. Now we've got to staple the dog up, or it's going to bleed out. You know, that's the reality. And they don't have the lifespan, a lot of them, of bird dogs. But you also have to carry a staple gun with you and iodine and all kinds of stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that first aid kit is something we always have in our dog box or the truck whenever we go somewhere. I mean, you never know when you're going to have to patch it up, and you never know where the closest vet is. Down here in Texas, I mean, rattlesnakes is a big one. So I think if people can get their rattlesnake vaccines, and then you can carry some antivenom with you, and those kind of things, those are always good to have. Yeah, your med kit's important. You never know when you're gonna have to patch up a dog. I'd say that the first time you clean it out. I mean, Art and I were talking about this when I got back. We were just talking. Yeah, if you don't clean it out that first time really, really well, then that's where your infection comes. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with going to the vet. I know a lot of old heads that they're like, oh, I'll never take my dog to the vet for this, that, and the other. But I mean, nothing's wrong with the vet. Yes, vet bills are not cheap at all. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, these little dogs bust their butt for us. The least you can do is get them proper care, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So I took Belle. She passed away in December, but her and I went to New Mexico in 2020 for I went bear hunting for a couple days, and then we spent a couple days around Taos grouse hunting, and she stabbed herself on some kind of stick, and it looked a lot very similar to Scotch's wound, where it was just kind of flayed open that the skin and
Right.
kind of just flapping around. I was like, oh my god, I got to take her to the vet, and I called, and the vet was like, yeah, because of her age, she was like 10 at the time, like it'll be $500 just to see her, and then we estimate another $700 or $800 just to stitch her up. I was like, Belle, hope you enjoy your new scar. So I had I had a first aid kit for me, but I didn't have one for her, and so I cleaned it out and stuff, and I tried to put it was on her chest, and she wanted to keep hunting. We still had 2 days left, and I tried to put like an ace bandage wrap around there, and yeah, that didn't last very long. So yeah,
Right.
she had a gnarly scar, but like you said, she just wanted to keep hunting, just like Scotch did. Dogs have such a high threshold for pain, like it's insane.
Oh, yes. I mean, we'll never really understand what's going on in their brains. I mean, we try. We're really just taking a guess, but
We're
oh man,
wimps compared to them.
yeah, right. I said if I could be a bird dog for a day, that's all I could handle probably, because the mentality of a bird dog is probably just nothing we can handle. We would be we would be in disarray if we saw the way a bird dog thinks and just the drive they have. I don't think a person could handle it. I mean, they're on a whole nother level of their willingness to please, their willingness to run through cover just to find game. Yeah, a bird dog it's one of a kind. It's one of a kind animal.
Yeah. Well, and I told you one of the coolest things I ever saw Belle do, and she's obviously a lab, but she got to work behind a lot of pointers and
Right.
other bird dogs over the course of her life. And one time we were hunting with a poodle pointer. It was the same color as Belle, chocolate, and I'd seen that dog pointing all morning, and then I told the guy, I was like, "Hey, your dog's on point." And he goes, "That's your dog." And I was like, "What?" I look over, and sure enough, it's Belle. This isn't anything to toot Belle's horn. What I want to talk about is that natural instinct. And you
Right.
explained it to me. I guess I never really even thought, like, why do these pointers point? Why did bird dogs point? And so you broke it down for me. It's really a simplistic natural
Right.
instinct.
Yeah, so I mean, any natural predator like your dog or even your domesticated house cat, if you watch them, the stalk is what turns into the point. They'll figure out there's no way I'm going to be able to chase this thing and catch it. This whether it's a bird or whatever it may be, a butterfly, a leaf. Every time you try to chase this object, it goes away. So then that chase turns into a stalk, and then the stalk turns into the point. And sometimes, I mean, you get great dogs like your dog Bell, who just naturally has that instinct that it realizes, okay, I'm going to stalk this bird, and then eventually, I think something good will happen because the stalk is what you get the point from, and over time, I mean, we've bred so well that the point is so natural nowadays. I think the French Brittany holds point really, really naturally, and it's something we love to see out of our young pups. I mean, it's you could anything that has prey drive, you can get the point. Just for anyone listening, I mean, any dog that has prey drive has potential, whether it's a bird dog or a dog you got from the shelter. If that dog will chase something, it'll chase the bird, and we can turn it into a bird dog for you. We'll do our absolute best.
Mm. So you have a GSP. I feel like you're kind of cheating on the kennel with your personal dog, but you brought I think you brought either 4 or 5 French Brittany's in the trailer, and then your personal dog, which
Right.
watching. So I loved watching the French Brittany's run, but just watching a GSP, it's like a freaking gazelle with how much ground those dogs can cover, how graceful they run. Oh my God, I love a GSP too.
Right. The short hair is a special kind of dog. I mean, it's definitely I feel like it's a much more difficult dog to train than a French Brittany because it's a German dog, so I think it needs a lot less affection than the French Brittany's. Where these French Brittany's, they have no problem. Just like I got all these little guys cuddled up right here next to
Oh
me,
yeah.
and then that short hair, if she was down right now, she'd be running the fence line looking for game.
Mm-hmm.
And their motor is extreme. Any dog can get to that motor, but I see it so much in short hairs, and they're just built to run. They're built to cover ground, just like your big pointers are. And watching a short hair run is a special thing, and that I love that short hair especially because she loves to retrieve. And I got her, and I just wanted a little dove dog and a dog I could take to the lake, and then we ended up hunting out here and looking for quail and looking for all kind of birds and short hair is it's a great dog. I like her too because even a short hair makes a decent guard dog. So I know if I leave her with at the house with my girlfriend or some family, I know at least the dog will stand up for him. A little French Brittany, I mean, they might lick a criminal to death, but I don't think my short hair would be too greedy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's an Instagram page called GSP Assholes, just because the dogs are, like you said, they're a lot for some people. You know, they really
Right.
are. But they're still, dude, their desire to hunt. My sister-in-law has one, and I'll be honest, she got him trained, and then life got busy, and they started having kids, and he hasn't been hunting in 6 or 7 years, and he just paces the back fence just nonstop
Right.
because
Yeah.
he wants to be out looking for rabbits and birds and um but like you said on the retrieving thing, that's why Bell got to go on those hunts, is because a lot of those pointers, short hairs, they couldn't be bothered to pick up a quail. You know, once they point, that was their job was done. They did their job, and they're on looking for the next covey. Um,
Right.
what?
And I think it is in those dogs to retrieve. I think it's just something that's not as natural for like your labs, obviously, or your cockers or springers. I think it can be put into those dogs. It just takes a lot more work.
Yeah.
And they definitely haven't bred for that. They're just breeding dogs in the pointer world. Big running dogs that have desire to find game and that just are healthy and they can run for a while. I mean, I'm sure if there was a line where they wanted to have pointers that retrieve, you could definitely do it. I mean, any dog can almost do absolutely anything. It's just some take a lot more time than others.
Mhm. But now these French Brittany's though are eager to retrieve. I wouldn't know
Oh yeah.
because the hunting was so bad. We never shot a quail. We hunted for a day and a half and we bumped one covey. That was it. And we had like 4,000 acres to work with. So we never
Yeah,
got to see them retrieve.
the French Brittany is a dog that loves to retrieve. It's just a pleasing dog. It's a versatile dog, just like your short hairs and your small Munsterlanders. And whenever the dogs trial in France, those it runs in the HPR category, which stands for Hunt Point Retrieve. So it has to do everything. And we love watching these little guys retrieve. It's very natural for them. But the French Brittany, it'll definitely pick up with the rest of them.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, not like your lab. I know your lab was probably an incredible retriever, but it's in the name, so
Yeah.
it's bred for over years to have desire to go out, find game, and bring it back to you. But I mean, these little French Brittany's, the sky is the limit with them. I mean, just like any dog, though. Like I said, the sky is the limit. It's just how much time you want to put into it and how patient you are. I think that's the most important thing. Just patience. Just
So,
patience.
John, we have to talk about some of the lingo of the
Right.
upland hunter. And one word that you kept saying really stuck out. And the only time I ever hear this word used is when, say, like a soccer player scores 2 goals in a game and it's a brace. And you're like, well, we're going to
Oh,
run this
okay.
brace of dogs. And I'm like, you mean a pair or this duo or like, so that was funny to me because you're, like I said, you're a young man and this is clearly old man's language. We're gonna run a brace of dogs
Right. Yeah.
with our over unders today. I mean, like, it's
Well,
a
I mean,
gentleman's
I didn't
sport.
even care. I didn't even carry around a gun that day. I don't think I was just walking around with a walking stick, and we were just
Yeah,
telling stories and following the dogs. I mean, and that's the thing about upland hunting. It's an older. I think it's an older man's sport, or women's older person sport. And I think I wish there was a way where I could get it out to the younger community, but at this point in the hunting world, it's a little bit expensive unless you're going out to public land where you're battling traffic and stuff like that. But I mean, running a brace, I mean, I've heard that for a long, long time. And I even remember it was whenever you'd go out to hunt or you go out to a field trial, you would dress nice. You'd have a
uh-huh.
nice collared shirt on. And I try to, we do that every day here. I mean, every day you wear a collared shirt and you dress like someone's coming to visit the kennel. Don't get me wrong. I'll wear my hoodie whenever it's cold and I'll look, I'll look like a goofball with my hoodie on. But whenever we have guests coming, I mean, you wear a nice collared shirt. I mean, there's a way of going about it. And when you respect the woods and you respect the dogs, I think good things happen to you. So I mean, I don't go out there and I'm not saying a bunch of stuff to begin with because the dogs don't need to hear a bunch of stuff. I'm just letting
Yeah,
them work at that point. But I think the lingo is something that's just over time. I mean, you don't talk like a goofball when you're out there. I mean, you got to pay your respects to the nature and you got to pay your respects to the dogs and your company. I mean, you're never just going to be just talking out of your butt, I guess. I mean, there's a way to do things out there, and I think being respectful and respecting the dogs, like I said.
well, it's tradition, right? I mean, a lot of
Right.
upland hunting is that the tradition of the sport,
Right.
and it is, and this was even more abundantly clear on our hunt. It is really shooting a bird over the dogs is really just a bonus. Um, it isn't about how many quail you put in the bag. It's about watching the dogs do their thing, and even for me as someone that's had labs essentially my entire adult life, it's all about the dogs. And I
Right.
think upland hunting it's even it's exponentially it's how the dog's running today. And it's a wonderful thing to watch and experience. Going back to what you said though about it is an old man's game. You're 22. Unless people like you pass the torch on, it's going to die because it's hard. It's so hard these days to find habitat where you can actually get dogs on birds. Um, it's not cheap. So I that's really why I wanted to have you on and just say through our conversations that we spent those 2 days together out in West Texas, and I appreciate you picking up the torch and wanting to make this your life's work, man.
Right. I mean, the thing about if anyone's ever seen a bird dog go on point, it's kind of, or at least for me, I mean, I can't speak for everyone else, but seeing a bird dog go on point, it's kind of one of those things in the world that it's just everything. I mean, just like the dog, everything stops, and
Time stops. Yeah.
and it's literally a dog on point, and they turn to stone, and they're locked up and they're frozen. And when you see that, I mean, it kind of everything else goes out the door. I mean, all the problems. I mean, the world stops for a second, and then a covey of birds flushes up, and then you just get to be in awe and be a little kid again, and just admire. And I think that's the thing about dogs is you don't like whenever we go out, it's never a lot of yelling at the dogs or a lot of talking. I mean, you just sit back and watch the show, let the dogs work and admire the beauty of all of it, whether it's the sunrise or it's the horizon or whatever it may be. I mean, just going out there you're right. It's not about putting birds in the bag. It's just enjoying the day and enjoying your dog working and seeing that God has this power to bless these little animals with the desire to run and find game for us. And whenever you see them go on point, it's just it's just something that I guess no one will ever really understand unless you see it. Unless you
Mhm.
see it.
I think the most wild quail I've ever taken in one hunt was like 7 or 8, and the limit's
Oh yeah,
15. So
right. It's a
when
tough
you
bird to hunt.
oh yeah, so you have this limit of 15 birds, and I think there's a misconception that I mean, getting 15 dove not that hard. Getting 15 quail freaking very difficult, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not
And
easy by any
and it's
means.
not something that people really strive for as far as the the folks who are immersed in the sport. Like, it's not about getting a limit of quail. Like we said, that's all just a bonus. Um, as far as Plum Creek kennels go, do you guys breed and train dogs and sell
Yes,
puppies? Like,
sir.
what is so? Okay.
Yes, sir. So we have a breeding program here. We have about I think we have about there's about 24 dogs out here at the kennel. I think we have 8 females that are in the program. We try to get litters out to people. I mean, there's a waiting list of people. People obviously they want the tricolors, Brittany, and that's something about the French Brittany that the American Brittany doesn't classify. We have a tricolor dog, which is your black with a little bit of orange and also white, and then we also have a liver, which is a little bit of like almost like a burgundy color. That's our liver dogs. So we have a breeding program, and we try to get people a dog that's just amazing in the house, but it's also a dog you can take out with you in the woods, and it could find some birds for you. And then we also accept client dogs when we have stalls open. We accept client dogs to come in, and then we do hunt and train seminars, and as well as seminars out here at the program. And it's a method that we think works really well. It's not a heavy e-collar method. We do use e-collars. You saw that. I mean, but that stuff's really just for the safety of it. I mean, if your dog's really not broke, you probably shouldn't be taking them out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Just for safety purposes, in my opinion. I mean, if your dog doesn't have good recall, like 100% recall, you probably shouldn't be bringing them out anyway. And I think some people depend on that e-collar a little much at times, which is okay as long as you keep your dogs out of harm's way. That works. But yes, at the kennel, we try to get client dogs in. It works out because as our puppies go out, a lot of people they'll send their dogs back to us, and we'll get them trained up for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sell started dogs as well, and we sell our retired dogs and stuff along those lines. It's a full functioning kennel, and there's a website, Facebook page. We're not on Instagram, I don't believe, but definitely Facebook, and there's a website if anyone wants to go check us out. Bill Dillon did a great job with the breeding program, and now Art Heitzler and Mary Heitzler, they're taking over the breeding program, and they're doing great things with it. I mean, the little dog now we're on to oh man, we just went into some frozen semen, and we bred a dog with it, so we're excited to see what those little pups turn out to be. They've done a great job with the French Brittany breeding program. Bill and Kathy Dillon did amazing.
So they've taken on some of these dogs to France to trial,
Right,
right?
right.
And
If
because of COVID, all of that went away. Do you think that she'll end up going over to France and taking
yeah, I
some
mean
of?
that's our main goal. Not our main goal necessarily, but I think these little French Brittany's we're breeding. I think the world needs to see them, and I think they can run with the best. And we'll run in American field trials, and then we'll also go over to France for the field trials, like you said. The thing we really love about the French field trials is that everything's on wild birds. Everything's on wild birds, so it's a hunt. It's not pen raised birds, and I'm not bashing any of the pen raised birds or anything like that. But it's a hunt, and some days Bill would say there's just no birds in the field, and then that's the run your dog got that day. If the judge liked him, then you say, okay, well, let's go run in this field. But I mean, it's a hunt, and sometimes the luck's not on your side, and your dog doesn't find birds that day, but another dog finds birds, and he looks amazing, and that dog wins. And that's what we love about the French field trials, and that is a goal of ours to get back over there. I think the pandemic stuff should be ending here pretty soon. I'm not sure. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that stuff. We just run the dogs. But I think they should be opening up soon, and we're definitely trying to get back over there. We have some
Right
young
on.
prospects that we like.
Very cool. Well,
Yes, sir.
man, like I said, I enjoyed our time. It was circumstances that brought us together, and my wife always thinks it's crazy. I've talked about this on the show before because it's happened so many times. She's like, "You're doing what? You're meeting some total stranger in a town I don't even know where you're gonna be, out in the middle of nowhere." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool. It's a hunter. It's just like me." And
Right,
yeah,
especially someone with dogs too. Well, you can tell a lot by a person just by how they treat their dogs.
yeah, oh yeah,
If they're harsh on their dogs, I mean, there's a good chance that they might burst out in anger one day at you. But I mean, I hope the people that are patient, like I try to be, I try to be really, really patient with a lot of people. But at the same time, I mean, I'm okay with just staying around the dogs more than anything.
yeah. Well, you told me that you made a new friend in me, so that's high praise from
Oh,
someone
absolutely.
who's even admitted I don't need to have that many friends. So I enjoyed our I
No,
enjoyed
no,
our
no.
time.
I think friends are very important, but I think there's a lot of people that will bullshit you too. But
Yeah,
I knew you were a good guy. I knew you were a good guy just by the way you talked about your dogs and just by the way you looked at my dogs and things along those lines. So I definitely appreciate meeting you. It was a pleasure. Sorry we couldn't get you on more birds,
well,
but
hey, you know what? The that was another funny moment. Is we're like, God, all this habitat, and I mean the habitat looked amazing, right? But they
right,
obviously haven't had timely rainfall out there in some time, and basically the deer hunters were trying to sublease it to me for quail and turkey, and just to pay for some of their protein costs. And the game warden's card was on the wall there in the cabin, and I picked it up and called him, and he was like, "Yeah, we really haven't had many quail since like 2013." And this was like halfway through our hunt, and I'm like, "Well, there you go. We did find one
yeah.
covey, and that
Hey,
was it."
like we said, I mean, it only takes one to get you to come back.
Oh
It
my
only
gosh,
takes
yeah.
one to get you to come back.
So
And that's the thing about that property. I think, I mean, I'm no wildlife biologist by any means, but I think for that property, from what I saw and heard, I think if they could do something about the predators, the foxes and the coyotes, I think if they could take those out, I think they have a chance to get some quail because that's just like a sitting happy meal for a coyote or a fox. I mean,
yeah,
just a covey of quail right there on the ground. That's like a free meal for them, and they'll just wipe out a whole population.
yeah. Well, and after you left, I called a fox in like 2 minutes, and so
Right.
that
Oh,
told me all
they
I'm.
were out there. Yeah, they
Yeah.
were out there for sure.
Yeah. Well, man,
Yeah.
thanks for carrying the torch for the younger generation. Like I said, if folks like you don't do it, it's an old man sport, and that means
Right.
that a young man has to step up and make sure that this thing continues, and that
Right.
because these bird dogs, I mean, they deserve it. They've
Right. Right.
people have invested centuries into breeding them to this point, and point didn't that that was an accident there, but yes, they've bred these pointing dogs for centuries to get them to where they are, and I'm glad to see that continue, and for someone like you to pick up that torch and to have such a passion for these upland dogs. It's
I,
awesome to see, man.
right. And I think every day. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's days where you come out and the dog's not doing the right thing, and you can get discouraged. It is easy to get discouraged because I mean, at the end of the day, when you're playing field trials or you're guiding or whatever it may be, your dogs do kind of control the dogs and the birds kind of control your livelihood at that point. And sometimes it's I think running bird dogs is so great because it teaches you to let go. You can't control everything and anything in life. Actually, you can't control
Yeah,
anything, and sometimes you just got to let it go and sit back and watch the show or smell the roses or whatever the saying may be that you want to choose. I think that's why bird dogs are so great. I mean, they teach you to appreciate things and just just let it happen and just let it happen. And I think we just need to keep the bird numbers going. I don't know how we can do it everywhere, but I think we just need younger people to get involved. I think we need more people like you doing podcasts, just getting things out there. And social media is obviously something that I think can play a huge part in the conservation side of things to let people know, hey, if you get a little bird dog, it might be the best time of your life to follow it around.
hmm
And I don't think a lot of people grew up in that type of environment, so I think they do need to get informed on this stuff and maybe watch a bird dog run. Go to your support your local outfitters and stuff like that. Watch a bird dog run, and then maybe one day you'll want to get one.
yeah. Well, no doubt. Well, hey, man, I enjoyed our time in camp, and I look forward to the next time. Hopefully, we'll find a place that has a few more birds on it.
Absolutely. We'll always be ready. I mean, the box is always there.
All right, man. Well, hey, take care.
Yes, sir.